state resources are being carted away for political advantage. How state resources are being carted away for political advantage. And it's a very powerful series that will take a deep look and a deep dive into historical antecedents, into what has evolved and how nations have evolved, and how their resource being taken away for all sorts of gains. And this series is an eye-opening one. It's one that will keep you at the edge. It's one that will make you think and introspect. It's one that will the so-called people that you think are your saviors are not your saviors. They are people that are also in the business of using you for their own selfish benefits. And when they use you for their own selfish benefits, they ensure that whatever comes to them is permanent, and they use it for their generations yet unborn. So, the earlier you understand this will make you not go fighting all sorts of crazy fights for some politician that has his own interests at heart. So be careful. Be careful. Be careful. At first, I'm telling you the story of a man, Goldie Tubman. But this man is said to be one of the founders of Nigeria. Goldie Tubman. Many years ago, after Goldie Tubman came from the UK, he had his sojourn in a place called Sudan and Egypt, where he learned about the Niger. After learning about the Nile, River Nile, in various parts of what we know to Nigeria today. As at that time, Nigeria had not come into being. There was no Nigeria. But the Royal Niger Company was trading. In fact, the only area was an area called Lagos Colony. Lagos Colony. Because in 1861, the British had perfected their work in the Lagos Colony. And they were already taking things from the Lagos Colony. A lot of trade was going on there. All sorts of race was coming to trade, and they were trading in raw materials. So when this company came into being, I'm talking about the Royal Niger Company, some interesting things started to happen. And I explain it to you all. Goldie Tubman is often credited as the founder of modern Nigeria. He committed a lot of atrocity. The British reportedly introduced smallpox to the fleeing population. There were many other people that RNC, that's the Royal Niger Company owned by Goldie Tubman, that had a private army called the Constabulary, deposed. that stood in the way of profits. People like Jaja of Okpugu, Oba of Benin and Nana of Olomu, they were similarly targeted. In the north, Goldie personally directed military campaign to subdue the Fulani Emirates. Being down in Ilorin in 1897, they led expedition against the states using Maxim guns. These campaigns involved the killing of local princes and the forced recognition of the company's sovereignty over the lands. A major historical grievance is that Goldie treated the territory and its people as private business assets. That's Nigeria. He sold the administrative rights to Nigerian territories to the British Crown for £860,000. Critics argue this finalized the transition of Nigeria from a collection of sovereign kingdoms into a commercial transaction for the British Empire. So let me now also read to you one interesting piece of history. The companies that came together to form the Royal Niger Company in 1879, that formed United African Company, UAC, which later became the African National Company and finally the Royal Niger Company. West African Company, led by James Crowther. Central African with Macintosh. Miller Brothers, a firm based in Glasgow and Liverpool. James Pinnock and Co., a trading firm owned by James Pinnock. Because the truth is, as at that time, there was a lot of trade going on in these parts that became Nigeria. The first resource exploitation that we talked about today is that of Goldie Tubman. That's the first resource exploitation. I'm telling you how the resource of a country is being taken away. The first way a resource of a country is being taken away is in trade. And I've told you that the first resource exploration that we talked about today is that of Goldie Tubman. Goldie Tubman committed so much atrocities that he had to burn his books, because he knew if those books were revealed, history will not remember him fairly. So he had to burn all his books. So Goldie Tubman had to burn his books. Why did he burn his books? Because he knows history will not fairly remember him, because he committed a lot of atrocities. He had his own private military militia where he committed numerous atrocities. After the Goldie Tubman left, then the British took over. Then many companies still evolved. In fact, then Goldie Tubman did not really leave, because I think Goldie Tubman died around 1925. After handing over Nigeria, the company still continued. In fact, the company still continued till modern day, but it has evolved into other companies and it's been bought. There were also many other trading partners that came to trade. Like I said before, the Germans, the Israelis, the Syrians, the Indians that came to trade in resource. But why I highlighted that of Goldie Tubman was because of his high-handedness. Then Britain also started taking resource out for itself and for colonial advantage. It started taking resource out for what? For itself and for colonial advantage. until we got to independence. Then a new set of resource stealers emerged, which became our political class. In corruption deals and businesses to favor themselves, their family members, and all that concerned them. So this business class started to evolve. The first way politicians siphon things in the First Republic is that they own big companies and they use the laws of the land to favor their companies. In fact, one of them owned a shoe company and he used the laws of the land to favor his shoe company. They got very rich, they bought property, they bought everything at the expense of the people. Corruption inquiries were being pushed aside because they were able to buy the ecosystem. So anytime they brought up corruption inquiries, they pushed it aside. Some of them got so rich that over 30, 40 years after they died, their children are still fighting over the property that they amassed, which is supposed to be your commonwealth, which is supposed to be what belongs to you. And the trend has not stopped till today. That trend is still continuous. They partner with companies. They take interest in big companies and proxies. They use the money for three things. Number one, affluence. Number two, charity, to be able to build influence in the eyes of people. Number three, power influence. That's what they do. They either, one, run for political office, or two, influence people that run for political office by funding them. Is it safe to say that the new crop of politicians are the new Goldie top man? That's a question that you will answer. The phone lines are 0818 099 1991. 0818 099 1991. 0818 099 1991. One of the things they will use the money to do to buy political influence, they will use the money to hire crowds. They will call it mobilization. Hello, how are you?
Hello.
Bless you. Turn on the volume of your radio set, please.
Thank you very much. Hello.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
So what I'm talking about, this issue of this mention we are now. So how can we come out of it in this country? That's my question.
You have a right to vote whoever your choice is at the ballot box, not who you have been giving money to vote. That's just it.
Now, if we make up, if we decide this in 2023, if we done our best and if you are that thing, at the end, we will be on this one, this place will be.
The reason why your vote did not count in 2023 is that only 27% came out to vote. You think people came out to vote in 2023, you didn't vote enough. If the numbers were overwhelming, it would have been harder to rake. So when you talk about 2023, we came out. Based on statistics, you didn't come out enough. Only 27% of the people that registered to vote came out to vote in 2023. So we didn't come out enough, and it made it easier. If you had come out enough, the margin for whoever were voted would have been bigger, and it would have been harder to manipulate. So that's just the truth. So when we keep talking about 2023, if you don't come out enough, to vote, the political oppressors will keep oppressing you. Because the little people they can buy with their money, they will buy them and they will use them to oppress you. Simple. And that's the argument I'm beginning to everybody that calls me and talks about 2023. You didn't come out enough to vote. That's just it, based on the data available. Hello, how are you? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hi.
Morning, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, my name is Neo. I'm calling from Accra, Ghana.
Great to have you. Talk to me.
So I think that some of the conversations that are happening regarding state and people that don't vote has a lot to do with the cultural nuance of the Nigerian electoral process and political ecosystem. Because I think that the dilemma that the people face is that they don't trust the system completely, which automatically means that whether you come out to vote or not, what are the guarantees that your vote will count? And then, of course, the elephant in the room is also what are the accountability measures that need to be in place to ensure that your vote counts. Not just within the electoral process, but within the community process, because we love that as well. So you have people who have the resources, the intellect, the opportunity to not just mobilize or galvanize, but they are either too afraid of just not trusting anything that could help them see what is possible for Nigeria. And I think that as much as we want to blame the government for it, the government is the people is the government, but also there's also the question around what can we do culturally to ensure that we can start to rebuild trust in not the governance system, but in the community system that can be able to hold the government system accountable at any point. So this is my thoughts on this.
Very, very valid point raised. Very valid point raised. Thank you. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Great to have you.
Yeah, my name is Samuel, and I want to contribute to the program.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to say that emphatically from the Bible that it is easier for the camel to pass through the eye of the needle than for a rich man to enter into God. It is absolutely true.
Very good. Very true.
Yes, absolutely true.
Very true.
You are a blessed man. It's a blessed man that will go to heaven. But no rich man, it's impossible for this man to even see the gate of heaven. Because of the atrocities that these people do, they can never relinquish their wealth. They must use the souls of this till they extract every drop from the souls of men before they allow you to go. So, I greatly appreciate this message from the history of the evolution of the country called Nigeria. And that is why Nigeria is in this mess. And we do all manner of things that are yet to difficult for the common man to even see. So I'm grateful for this program. I'm still following this program. This is my contribution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. As the time goes by, we'll be using history to teach you some of these things. We'll talk about slavery and the role some Nigerians or some people then played in slavery for their own selfish benefits, which is still there today. We'll talk about the role some people play for their own political benefits. I mean, when I see people collecting money for political benefits, I said it's not new. I mean, we have one recent history here. Youth ask for Abacha. Who remembers that? So there have been all sorts of organizations, pressure groups. But what we have to do is to be able to bring history and order and inspiration to a lot of Nigerians so that you'll be able to make your own decision. And the last two callers talked about something, community organization. That's something we need to be able to do. How do we even organize ourselves amongst ourselves? That's a very, very strong point. Also, she talked about trust for the institutions. That's going to be long to build. It's not just going to happen overnight. Some of the times, the institutions will have to end them. And we've seen institutions end them, but also lose them in this country. I remember the days of Jega. The trust level for INEC was big under Jega. Today, it's tanked again. But one proposition I'm putting forward is, if we get a lot more people to come out to vote, it makes the dynamics harder to read. Because, let me tell you, let me put out the dynamics. If you have a mass number of people coming out to vote, and they send out their thugs and everything, I mean, they can't have a standing army of over 100,000 thugs, or 200,000 thugs. Let's say they send out these people. The power of the people definitely overwhelms the other power. People that are ready to stand with their vote and be accountable. Yes, I know the next argument I'm going to throw at me is Rufai, who wants to die and everything. There's something called a mob action, where you have a lot of people in a crowd, and you try to attack them. It's not going to be possible. And obviously, with the power of your phones, it amplifies the case. So, if people say they're going to go to a polling unit, stay there, ensure their vote is counted, the seats, and they ensure that it's uploaded, then definitely impact is going to be made. But I still feel to a large extent the missing link is that, one, people are not patient enough, they don't come out enough when the shenanigans starts. Because the shenanigans will start. I remember how we had to amplify the case of VGC in the last election. When I got a lot of calls from VGC, as if for one reason or the other they couldn't vote, then the people stayed there. And their votes counted. So, let's say Panza. Hello, how are you?
Hello, good morning, sir.
Morning, how are you?
Manje calling from Abuja.
Monday, great to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, your strength. Voice on people.
Thank you, my brother.
I appreciate it. But the question is, because I was listening to what you were saying, this body parts coming out and fast to vote. But you know, the challenge of Nigerians is that we have lost faith in the electoral process. Look at what happened in 2023. The next city here, last Sarah Plateau, it will be one. But at the end of the day, you know, so I don't know. Because sometimes when I go share some, have some kind of conversation with some of my friends, they will say the vote doesn't count, they don't believe in the INEC whatever again. So because until this structure is properly reformed, before our people are believe that really we are really enjoying the dividends of democracy. You understand? So thank you very much, my dear brother.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate it. 08180991991. Hello. Great to have you.
Morning, sir.
Morning. All right. 08180991991. Zero 1991. I put the argument in front of you. The question is, I just want you to think through all of this I have said today. and see what you want to make out of it. Hello.
Hello.
Great to have you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From what you said, I'm going to imagine if every politician understands all these things, why are they still living in deception? Why can't they stand and say, let us change the narrative?
No, they can't change the narrative largely, except the people force them to. Because see, there is nobody that you put in front of the kind of resource Nigeria has that you don't want to steal, especially with the weak institutions. Because he knows that if he steals, he can use the money to suppress the institutions. And the worst case scenario you will get is that he can even do a plea bargain, give 1/10 of what he has stolen, because obviously they will not know how much he has stolen, and he'll still walk away a very rich man. And guess what? In the next election cycle, he will probably tell his political partner that he funds to be there to give you a presidential pardon, like Alame Sia got a presidential pardon. So you don't have the odds stacked against people that do evil. But except the people start to demand a high level of accountability, then the country doesn't move on. But please, I beg you, next time when you want to call, turn off the volume of your radio set. Turn it off totally.
I'm very sorry.
So we don't have an holdback. But that's the analysis. So it takes somebody that the people will be able to scrutinize. And that's why you see they try to suppress the things that speak for the people. I think you turn off the holdback. Please just turn it off.
I'm totally that.
Good. So that's why they try to suppress things like the media. Or they try to buy things like, and let me tell you how politicians buy media. And that's why I keep telling people we need more independent media.
Yeah.
Number one place how politicians buy media is, once they are in a government position, they know that the media companies want out of the government media budgets for the year to be able to run their company, because the level of degradation has affected the private sector so much that most media companies will be hardly able to make the proceeds from the private sector like it's done in other parts of the world. So they rather take a lot of government ads, and the person in charge of that government ministry obviously dictates the narrative.
Okay.
And that's why we're running VOP, we're running in such a way where we run in such a way, that's why this radio station you listen to, we run in such a way that we don't take any government funding. That much. We don't even. If they come to advertise with us, it's separate, but it's not going to influence, we're not going to go lobbying for it. So once that happens, they start to dictate to you, and because you want to get your checks paid. And that's why I keep saying people must also invest in media to be able to have objective voices. Secondly, another thing they do with the money is that they buy influence of people through charity organizations. Charity is good when it doesn't have an ulterior motive. So if somebody that didn't used to do charity before all of a sudden starts to do charity because he wants to run for election the next minute, be careful about that person. So that's another way at which they buy influence. They want to buy goodwill. Thirdly,
invest in media.
what?
How do you think people can invest in media, especially the general public? How can they? Because there's no media apart from, I think, is it AIT I saw on stock, the list of stock. How many media?
I mean, give grants to media houses. Give grants to media houses. Give grants to support media. Give grants to support stories. It should get to a point where when people die in Nigeria, they should put in their will, give XY portion of my will to this media company that I love and believe so. People do it in other parts of the world. Give grants.
Media houses are not biased.
Eh?
That's the ones that are not biased.
Yes. yes, the ones that you think, in your own estimation, that has done a good job is like I mean, I'll give you an instance. There's a family, Colonial family in America called MacArthur. When they died, I think they made their money from oil. One of the things they put in their will is that most of their monies should go to media houses that do a lot of advocacy work. I know for a fact that Brekete, for instance, in Abuja, gets grant from MacArthur Foundation. So people too can equally say, okay, I want this money, I want to give this to this media house to support their work. And the thing also that it makes them accountable, because if you give them money and you think they're willing to slack, you call them out that I'm a donor and I'm going to stop donating if you don't sit up. Because, and that's why and another thing they will do is they will also own media. So there's virtually no state in this country where at least one of the top politicians don't own one radio station or two. So they too are also playing heavily in the space because they also want to sound off and, get people to be on their side. So these are things you should look out for. And that's why you see that in the coming days, you see how media will be used to push all sorts. I mean, it's always up during the election season. News reportage and all of that. So there's virtually no state in this country where a top politician does not own radio or TV, but mostly radio. And go and check it. No states in this country. So because what?
It's like what we did recently in Abuja.
I mean, I don't even know if you did any radio station, but I'm not aware of that. All right. No, the one I'm aware of was the one in Port Harcourt. I'm not aware if they've done one in Abuja. There was one in Port Harcourt. That's the one I'm aware of. You get.
But is there any way that VOP can do GoFundMe, thereby the public, the general public,
No. Take for instance, if you want to give to VOP, for instance, VOP has a YouTube page. You can go and check their YouTube. There's a donation platform on the YouTube page.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and people, it's really on multiple platforms, So you can do that, and you can use the help. Because they also know that it's easier to stifle media.
Yeah.
And that's why the first thing they attack is me. I'll tell you a story of one media organization. Many years ago, that refused to budge. And funding stifled it. 2, 3, 4 Next. I don't know if you remember Next newspapers.
Yes.
Was big, ready to carry big, bold stories and everything. Was innovative. But something happened and the major funding plug just got pulled out. Because they wanted to do their job. And that was where the problem started from. And once the funding dried up, they couldn't sustain. And that was how that dream of Next 2, 3, 4 passed away. Well, maybe one of these days, we'll be able to tell the story of some media that have passed away. Because they know also you need money to be able to run it. And it's very difficult. So it's not an easy one. Co-founding and ensuring that it's kept on the air with generators and everything and all of that. But we'll keep doing the work, and we also need the support of people. That's just it. So because it is the people that will have to guard the democracy. But the things that tell the people, okay, I'll give you an instance. You know that all the whole of last week, they were first couching this 700 million loan, over 7.6 million pound loan as an investment, until the media revealed it that it's a loan. And that was when it got out there that it's a loan. And we're asking for the terms of the loan and how all of this is structured. So, it is well, my brother. Thank you so much. We keep opening our eyes to all of these conversations. 0818 099 1991. 0818 099 1991. 0818 099 91. So, if you can call us on the phone lines, we'll be happy to take your calls. While we take the calls, we should also add that it's incumbent that you also ask questions and make research. That's another thing that makes democracy tick. Question is, how well do you even know about the person willing to lead you? So whenever candidate comes out, come out and ask them, who are they? What's their antecedents? How did they make their money? Most of the politicians will always lie that they came from rich families, and we know they don't come from any rich family. They would always say that their father had X, Y, Z. And they will always see that they want something they need for them. Or they want to be able to better the lot of people. That's why they're doing what they're doing. For them, it's always about their own benefit. For them, it doesn't concern them what happens, what transpires. It's always about their own benefits. What do they stand to gain? So that's why you need to ask them. The first and most important question is, what will you do for us? And when they tell you what they will do, also ask them how will they do it? And how will they get the money to do it? Then we must also have a media that brings to their notice the campaign promises of these politicians. Because a lot of them quickly forget their own campaign promises. And when they do that, it becomes a problem for the people and for society. They are so quick to forget their own campaign promises. So we must be able to hold them accountable by what they said they were going to do. That's key. And that's paramount. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to rest it here today. I don't know what's happening to T2 network. I think the network has gone off. To get network is problematic. I don't know. It's my network at the start of the show, but I don't know what's gone off now. So we'll have to wrap up the show. I'd like to say a big thank you to each and every one of you for joining us today. Thank you across board. We pray as you go. The words we said today will nourish and enlighten you. Now, we have an interview coming up. Somebody's going to tell us about what's happening in Badagry. You can switch to VOP 90.3 FM on YouTube to watch the other part of the show. So it's only the first part of the show that goes across multiple platforms. The other part of the show you can only hear on 2 platforms because the show goes up till 11. The other part of the show you can hear on VOP 90.3 FM on radio if you're in Lagos and in Ogun State. Then you can also watch the other part of the show on YouTube, VOP 90.3 FM on YouTube. All right? Bless you. As you go this week, God will bless you, keep his face over you, keep his purpose over your lives, and he'll help you in everything that concerns you. Amen. Bless you so much.
Lagos Film and Documentary Festival. But I've got my great brother from Badagry here. Please, can you just introduce yourself and tell us about Badagry, neglect of Badagry, and the film festival you do in Badagry, sir?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rufai on fire. Good to see you. My name is Vignon Amase. I'm a TV film producer, director, and a community advocate. I also am the executive director of Badagry International Film Festival. And interestingly, I'm here to premiere exclusively our first documentary on the neglect, on the state of Badagry, and on the potential opportunities that the government actually is losing or missing, or that they are not seeing, because Badagry is sitting on a gold mine. And this has happened with the support of our brother. His name is Maunyo Joseph. He saw the passion in how we've been pushing Badagry since 2008, and he said, oh, okay, what do you want to do now? And we started making it. So interestingly, when we finished the documentary made it here. Despite the fact that I'm a festival director, curator, I also have a means to see how I continue advocating for my community. So interestingly, if you check the statistics of how much the federal government made from Badagry last year, it's over 50-something billion, if my statistics are right. But we can fact check me. So, and we now say that if they can make this money from a border that is temporarily closed, or like say closed, and Badagry is a gateway city, so there's no gate up, the gate is closed. So that means if they open it up, trust me, that means they will make triple of that money in 1 quarter. So, and the same thing with the Lagos State government. So what we are just saying to them is, we are not here to fight at the table. We are here to just open their eyes, both the federal and the state, and yet to be investors to Badagry, to see that Badagry is sitting on gold mine. Imagine our waterways from the marina down to Takwa Bay, or the shore. Imagine they convert that place into a fishing community, whereby the fish there are natural in that water. It's in their natural habitat. They are not doing anything. They are not changing water. They are not changing anything. Imagine what value of liquid in terms of funds it will come back to the community. So these are and other things.
Can you tell me more about the neglect of Badagry?
Okay, so
as it is now, does Badagry have good potable pipe-borne water? They have hospitals. They have good schools. What's the neglect like?
Okay.
And what's the Human Development Index of living?
So the Human Development Index is 0. So, you know, we said per capita income. What is the average per capita income of the average Nigerian? It's less than $1. It's less than $1 because with the way the exchange rate has gone up now. So there's no industry. So there's no industry, there's no enough.
But people will argue that there's ASCON, there's Whispering Palms and things like that. What is going on with these ones?
Well, I just have to laugh.
ASCON in Tokpo.
Yes.
Remember in Tokpo back in the days. What will you say about that?
Okay, so ASCON is in Topo, yes. It's an institution and it's there to help retrain the people in the federal parastatals and anyone who wants to learn about management, managerial role in Nigeria or in any government sector. So that is an institution that is housing people, but it's not generating any resources.
But they will say you also have a Nigerian French language village in Ajara Badagry.
Yes, Nigeria, okay, now, it's a federal government in quote parastatal. So now, it also has its own bureaucracy. It is not like a factory, it is not like, it's not producing anything, it's not like people will come and work. One of the factories that was there back in the 90s and then that was closed down was Limca. They took Limca away.
So Limca closed. Why did it close, if you might tell us?
Well, I think that's a decision by the Nigerian bottling company Coca-Cola. I know they own that franchise.
But when Limca was there, did he used to employ people?
Yeah, of course.
You knew people that worked in Limca?
Trust me, you can investigate. Limca employed people and people were working. We know people that worked in Limca. And when that Limca was off, they bought it and it turned to a church now. That place has been converted to church. In fact, there was a time I met one of the pastors and I said, why didn't the church convert that place to a water bottling company? Instead of, yes, we all want to go to heaven. Of course, I don't want to go to hellfire because I'm a Christian. But
So apart from that now, what's the state of schools, hospitals, and government-owned infrastructure in that area? Because it's a big gateway town, like you said.
The gateway city is no more. It was a gateway city. It opened up in Nigeria we know today in terms of civilization. There's nothing good gateway about it. It's closed now. The gate is closed now. So the only hospital we have, apart from private hospitals, the General Hospital Badagry. Yes, of course. Yeah, the government have been able to put one or two things in terms to make it happen. But I tell you, if anybody has a major accident or there's a major mishap at Igbogbele, at Owodiapa, at the Seven Aziz, it will take them like an hour plus to drive down to that general hospital. So what happened? What happened? So
you get people that die from accident because you don't have,
because
proximity of hospital.
Proximity of hospital, and the hospitals are not. So it's not enough. That general hospital is taking so much, and when people go there, if they go on strike, the last time that they went on strike, people went to other private hospitals, and you could see people outside with drip bags, bottles, and everybody standing to make sure that their family survives. And I know that a lot of people died.
What about quality of schools?
Quality of schools, well, we are in Lagos State, we have federal government schools, we have Lagos State schools. The school I went to, my first school before my stepmother got brought me to Lagos, I went to Methodist Primary School at Shipa. If you go to that school now, you still see that the school that they built early 80s, the population in the early 80s, imagine that population and now, we don't have enough schools. That's the truth, especially the Owodiapa Aziz. There are not enough schools for our children. There are not enough schools, and you can imagine the competition.
I mean, what do people tell the politicians when they come to campaign? Because if you say you're being marginalized, and they have polling units in Badagry, and they deliver votes, so what do you tell the politicians when they come? Don't they see all of these things, and what have they been able to do?
I can tell you for a fact, the politicians know that these things are not existing.
Who is your representative representing Badagry in the Lagos State Assembly?
Honorable Bono Solomon, and we also have Honorable Setonji David. Of course, they are legislators.
So
right?
are they aware of all of this?
They are legislators, because the thing is, they are legislators. They cannot break money. They can only, lobby and legislate, and also see how their lobbying can bring the best to Badagry. So they are trying. The question is now that, is their best enough, or is somebody technically sabotaging their effort? That's another question.
Who do you think is technically sabotaging their effort?
Well, that I cannot, because with the body language, let me be very sincere with you. I can't pinpoint anyone, and I can't say this person is the person, but I can tell you, we are all not children. I'm going to I'm in my late 40s to 50s now. So if I cannot tell myself the truth, that means what am I really doing? That's the truth. Because if at this point, at this position, the school I went to,
it's not improved.
It's not improved. So I'm over 40 something years old. So what do I tell myself? What do I tell myself?
And it has been like that since when you were in primary school.
We're in primary school, so we can go there on a tour. Of course, there are friends of Badagry, of course. And while we are ready, we can go and you can see these things. It's there. So
what about things like hospitality? I remember there used to be whispering palms back in the days. I mean, all of those things, the shadow of itself now.
Yeah, no. So whispering palms has been taken over by another management after Prof's demise. Taken by another management.
Professor who?
That name now.
Okay.
But anyway, after Prof's, we call him Prof anyway. That's the so after his demise. So it's been run by a new management. So I spoke with them, interestingly, and the vision they have for that place is amazing. I spoke with the new management. The vision they have for them is great. So I will tell people to watch out for whispering palms. So we have all our hospital. How would I put it? Private people who are also coming to build resorts and the rest like that, But when the government body language is not so, every
so are you saying are those resorts not creating the needed jobs?
They are not. They are also having their own challenges. How will okay, I'll tell you why. Road to those resorts, it's a problem. And they don't make enough. They can't retain people. That's another thing. And the economy is also not helping. We all know how much everything is going. The dollar
cost of inflation,
inflation, and the rest like that. So, for the average hotelier, for the average people who are practitioner, I salute them because I salute them. That's the simple truth. But we need what we call. There must be a cushion. There must be a reason why.
So if you were to talk to, because you're talking on my platform to the world now, what do you think Badagry needs as we speak?
Okay, so for representation, we have people now. And the other thing is, a lot of our land still under government acquisition.
Okay.
Now, so a lot of investors has come. Genuine investors, but when they say, okay, this land is this, so they won't want. So now, to the policymakers, to the government, to the yet to be investor, there are places that are open for opportunities, and to the government, they need to look at the land acquisition, what's it called, gazette or whatever is going to be said. They need to see how they need to rework on that bill and accommodate more people who want to come and film, who want to come and build hospitality, who want to come and invest, and also there. During Fashola, there was a company called they're into transformer. They were assembling transformer. Just like twinkling of, they went away. Why? The road. But now the road is okay, right? And when the road is okay now, they also stop the train at Okoko. It's not supposed to be stopped at Okoko. If the train, just imagine the train gets to Semeboda, gets to Badagry and about and get to Semeboda. Imagine how many tourists will come in. Imagine how many investors will want to come in. Even the borderline people who are going to Aflawu, going to Lome, going to Ghana and the rest. That's another opportunity. So what, I'll retreat back to your question. Telling them now is we need the right people to speak to the people in power. So that
what's the local government chairman doing? Because the government says now they're giving more money to the local governments. So who's the local government chairman there, and what is he doing?
Okay, to be very, very fair, Honorable Mumbai, he just came in, right? And he's done his first 100 days. I can tell you, it's been amazing. So I've seen what he has done. I'm a critic of everybody. Once you do something right, I'll blow your trumpet. But to be fair on him, for the first 100 days, he's been amazing. He's done a lot. He's done quite a lot. I've seen that, and he's also so recently they just inaugurated the supervisors for tourism and everybody. So we're also watching to see how that also picks up.
Did he make you a supervisor?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. So you're the one to serve anywhere in government. But just quickly, as we wrap up, so tell me about the film festival you also hold in Badagry and your documentary and where they can see it apart from this film conference.
Okay, my film festival, the film festival that we host in Badagry is Badagry International Film Culture and Sport Festival, but we call it BFIF for brief, which is Badagry International Film Festival. So the whole idea started 2008 and we're marketing Badagry to the world. Eventually, African Magic came, they did a story called Gemenji on that. I became a cultural consultant. The whole thing went, it was a 260 telenovela and everything went, so it opened, so that brought more filmmakers to Badagry. Rogers Ofime, Mr. Femi Udugbeni and the rest came to Badagry for filming and Kule Afolayan. Then we now thought about it, what do we do to retain them? Hence we started the film festival. So with that film festival, we opened it up more. So for the last 3 years running, we've gotten over 5,000 film submissions, and it's been an amazing festival so far. So that is another way we're using to market and Badagry for it to be attractive, visible, and get the attention that Badagry needs. So it happens in November, and what's the other question again?
You've talked about the local government chairman. Yeah. We've talked about the film festival in Badagry, and we've talked about growth and development. But the other question I really want to ask you will be, how can they reach you? How can they support your film festival?
Okay.
And what do you need to make it happen? And where can they watch your own documentary apart from this conference?
Okay. So let me pick on the documentary. So the documentary for now, it's only exclusive here. So we'll do a proper premiere. We'll do a media tour soon on that, and with that, we'll share out the information on our website and also on the website of our donor. You know, it was supported by SME Foundation, so it was made possible by SME Foundation, and so that's the kind of support. But for now, to reach us, our website is www.bfif.com. So the BFIF is BIFIF.com. www.bifif.com.
Permit me to congratulate the Federal Republic of Nigeria on the occasion of her 65th birthday since she regained her independence from the British colonizers. It is a day that is worthy of reflection, and it is not lost on me that I've been asked to talk about Africa and Nigeria in that context. I speak at a time when it can be said that the continent of Africa is going through a midlife crisis. It is a midlife crisis that is punctuated by the dissatisfaction of young Africans who believe that the promises that were made by the founding fathers and founding mothers have not been fulfilled. It is a demonstration of the fact that there is a lot of work to be done. But it is on an occasion such as this that is also incumbent upon us to remember by a dint of history that the post-colonial African state, as we know them today, were designed to fail. In fact, it is true that the erstwhile colonizers, whether they are sitting in London, England, or in Paris in France, or in Madrid in Spain, or in Lisbon in Portugal, or in Brussels in Belgium, They are waiting for the African countries to collapse, that they may write the obituary. The fact that we are here and celebrating 65 years since we regained our independence is a demonstration that we have refused to fulfill the prophecies of the colonizer turned neo-colonizer. But yet, it is also important to remind ourselves is that the time has come when we can no longer afford the luxury of attributing our failures to colonization. We have had occasion to do many things, and indeed it can be said that we have done many things, but there is a sense in which we continue to punch below our weight. We must also remind ourselves that it is true that we are not the only peoples who are colonized. There are others who are colonized, others who we may describe as our colonial age mates, and for some reason they appear to be doing better than us. So on this occasion we must ask ourselves, what is it that we can do better? And the country that must ask that question more than any other country in the continent of Africa is the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The reason why she must do so is because out of every 5 Africans, 1 is a Nigerian. The reason why she must do so is because over 300 million people live within the territory of Nigeria. And I want to submit to Nigeria that the day you do your census properly, you will discover that you are actually 350 million. I look forward to that day when Nigerians will discover their number in this continent. And let us go down to history. Why are we assembled here? Are we assembled here simply because it is a jamboree at which we pat our backs? Are we assembled here simply to remind ourselves that 82 years ago, the Island Club was established? Are we assembled here merely to remind ourselves that 65 years ago, Nigeria regained our independence? Or we are assembled here to do all those, but also to ask difficult and uncomfortable questions? You know, when we talk about Africa, we must also and always remind ourselves that the Africa we are talking about is an Africa that is divided into 54 artificial nations. Some say 55. Some even say 56. Some even say more. But we must remember that as this club was being established in 1943, and the chairman has already said that it was the ground upon which courage was incubated. I want all of you who are present here to remember what the men and women who are assembled here were thinking about. In those days, when not every Nigerian could be allowed in these places. In those days, when Africans were considered to be children of a lesser God. In those days, when the British were quick to remind us that we were different because we were Hausa, because we were Fulani, because we were Yoruba, because we were Igbo, because we are Kalabari, and they were sowing the seeds of discord, that even when we regained our independence, we would not last for too long. We must ask ourselves what was going on in their minds. And those of you who are students of history will remember in 1945 in Manchester, in the United Kingdom, when Africans in the continent and those in the diaspora met for the first time, and were talking about Pan-Africanism, Nigeria was ably represented in that forum by Obafemi Awolowo. And if you remember what he, among others, said during that period, he was reminding us that once we regained our independence in and of itself was not sufficient. Independence was only going to be the beginning. The question is, did we begin well? Are we running well? Is there a promise for all of us? Is there something to celebrate or something to shout home about? These are the questions that must reside in our minds and in our hearts today. Those of you who are assembled here, when I was making my inquiries, I was told that you are some of the shakers and movers of Nigeria. The question that you must ask, what are you shaking and what are you moving? If you are shaking something, is it something that is going to benefit Nigeria? You must remember, is it your own Chinua Achebe who said that the man or woman who shakes the iroko tree only ends up shaking his buttocks? Is it your buttocks that are shaking or you are shaking Nigeria? These are the uncomfortable questions that you must face. And you know, as we are assembled here, there is a sense in which there is discomfort in the continent of Africa. We are assembled here in Nigeria, but Africa is not at ease. If you thought Africa was at ease, go to the Sahel. The insurgency is there. The young men and women who are dying on a daily basis. Africa is not at ease. Go to Sudan. There is war. Over 3.5 million internally displaced persons. Africa is not at ease. Go to Somalia. She's not at ease. Go to Central African Republic. She's not at ease. Go to the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo. She's not at ease. Go to southern Cameroons in Ambazonia. She's not at ease. And even when there is no real war, no real conflict, as I speak to you now, for 4 days and 4 nights in Morocco, young men are in the streets. As I speak to you now, young men and young women are in the streets of Luanda in Angola. As I speak to you now, young men are uncomfortable. Something is happening. Not only here in Nigeria, there are places in northern Nigeria where there are no-go zones. That is the reality. So we may sit in the comfort of island club, but this is just but an island. The reality is that it is an island in a sea of sorrow and desperation. The question is, beyond the lamentations, what can we do? We have lamented for too long. We have agonized for too long. Our young men and women are asking, what will we give them? The average age in this assembly, I suspect, is about 55. Our young men and women are not present in this assembly. They'll only watch on television. Where is the baton that we are going to pass over to them? Where is the united country that we are going to pass over to them? What are we doing in our health sector? As a young person, when we read about Nigeria, I read about the University of Ibadan, the University of Nigeria at Nsukka. And I remember those days. People would come from the Arab world to be treated at Ibadan. Today, when a Nigerian with an ability or an African with ability, depending on who colonized you, you ran to hostels in London or Paris or New York or lately Dubai and India. Yet in the intervening period, we have produced doctors in the thousands. Where did we go wrong? Today, as you drive across the continent of Africa, we may talk about the good roads, and I saw some beautiful roads in Akwa Ibom in Uyo. Beautiful. But who constructed them? If it is not Chinese, it is Europeans. In the intervening period, we have produced civil engineers whom, if you do not address as an engineer, he'll have a quarrel with you. What became of us? These are the questions which are uncomfortable, but we must ask. I'm booked in a hotel room here in Lagos. When I look at the free water that is given to me, bottled water, it is avian, a product of Coca-Cola in Lagos, Nigeria, Africa's greatest country, even water. And it's not only in Nigeria, it is in Nairobi, Kenya, it is in Accra, Ghana, it is everywhere, even water, 65 years after independence. When I ask for coffee, I get coffee Nescafe from little Switzerland. That is the state in which we are. What went wrong? Those who love Africa are asking. These are the uncomfortable questions that we must ask. Because if we don't ask them, we'll not get an answer. So we are here to remind ourselves that there is work to be done. How is it that when I was a high school student, the literature that I read was Wole Soyinka with The Road and the Interpreters, with Kongi's Harvest. It is Flora Nwapa that I read with the Furu. It is Chinua Achebe that I read with Things Fall Apart, No Longer at Ease, Antilles in the Savannah. It is Eleki Amadi that I read with The Concubine. Today, when I travel across Africa and I ask, do you know Chinua Achebe? Do you know Wole Soyinka? No, they don't. What happened to us? When I read history, we were taught about Nnamdi Azikiwe, and we called them even in Nairobi, Kenya, Zik of Africa. We are taught about Sir Ahmadu Bello, Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, Obafemi Awolowo. Later we learned about Olusegun Obasanjo. Agui Ronzi, whether you like them or not is a different debate, but we were taught them. Today, you go to the capitals of Africa, you go to Benin, and you ask the Beninois, who is the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 8 out of 10 do not know and perhaps do not care. What became of us? Why is it? Last week, there was the United Nations General Assembly. Even when the President of the United States of America was insulting everybody, African leaders sat there. But when their fellow African head of state is talking, they are busy doing other things. Who cast us? Who bewitched us? These are the uncomfortable questions that we must ask here. We have been too nice to each other for too long. The net effect is that if you go into any African environment, if you go to any African school and you ask young men and women, do you want to leave Africa? 9 of them want to run away. That is why they are dying in the Mediterranean Sea. That is why they are dying off the coast of Senegal. That is why they are being humiliated at embassies. You go to the embassy of any Western country, in any African country, and you'll see the humiliation. They ask you, even your great-great-grandmother, who died long before you are conceived as an idea. Those are the circumstances in which we find ourselves. On average, many of you who are present here, allow me to be morbid, in the next 40 years, you'll be upstairs. The question is, what are you leaving for your children and children's children? What is it? These are the questions. These are the uncomfortable questions that we must ask. And these questions must be answered by Nigeria primarily. I've said not once, not twice, but times without number, that the day Nigeria wakes up, that is the day Africa wakes up. You know, a friend of mine once told me, if you go anywhere in the world and you do not find a Nigerian, run out of that place. There is nothing there. And those of you who have had occasion to travel, you go to different parts of the world, you look for the best doctors, Nigerian. Look for the best engineers, Nigerians. Look for some of the best lawyers, Nigerians. The Nigerians are everywhere doing great things across the continent of Africa. And whenever Nigeria has decided to provide leadership, Africa has changed. You ask the Liberians with ECOMOG. When Nigeria stood up, that country was stabilized. When there was mischief in Banjul in the Gambia, and Nigeria stood up, that country was stabilized. When Nigeria did not do as well as she should have done in the Sahel, the problem is not stabilized. The question is, why is Nigeria a reluctant leader? Nigeria should be the leader economically. You know, when Nigerians say, and they debate with South Africa, and sometimes with Egypt, which is the biggest of the economies, I laugh. I laugh because the economies that they are talking about using the unreliable GDP, but we must use it, is that Nigeria is 500 billion USD GDP with a population of over 200 million. Singapore, which is smaller than Lagos, with a population of 6 million, has a GDP of 564 billion. So the debate between Nigeria and Egypt and South Africa is a debate between two dwarfs as to which one is the taller of them. Even if one is taller than the other, they are still dwarfs. The day that I will celebrate Nigeria is the day Nigeria tells me we are 2 trillion economy. And Nigeria can achieve it. And Nigeria must achieve it. What does Nigeria not have? Is the oil that is produced in Nigeria different from the oil that is produced in Saudi Arabia? Is it different than the oil that is produced in Kuwait, that is produced in Bahrain, that is produced in Qatar? Why must Nigeria not be the leader that has pipelines across the continent of Africa? Why can she not do it? She can. But we have allowed ourselves to be paralyzed by analysis and to be paralyzed by lamentation. It is your own kinsman, Chinua Achebe, who said that adversity is a problem of humanity, but we must never allow ourselves to be the victims or the agents of adversity. We must allow ourselves to be the conquerors of adversity, Chinua said. And I remember so very vividly in 1983 when Chinua Achebe wrote the little book, The Trouble with Nigeria, and he simply said that the problem with Nigeria, and he there said the rest of Africa is simply and squarely one of leadership. And his leadership at all levels. Many times we think that politics is the only side of leadership. No. Leadership is at all levels. Why can't you, if you've run this beautiful club for 82 years and run it well, why can't that be upscaled and replicated in every other sector of Nigeria? Why? Why is it that in this micro environment, you do not care who is who in this club? Everybody has a sense of esprit de corps, a sense of camaraderie. You do not care from which ethnicity you come from. But when you want to run the club that is Nigeria, you now talk tribe, you now talk religion. Why? These are the uncomfortable questions that you must confront, because if you do not confront them, then Nigeria and Africa will continue to punch below her weight. I'm suggesting to you that the time is now that we must ask ourselves what it is that we can do. We have lamented for too long. Let us now ask ourselves what it is that Nigeria can do in the area of education. You know, many of you who are present in this assembly may be described as upper middle class or the top class. You are the best of the best. You are the crème de la crème of Nigeria. And when you are the crème de la crème of Nigeria, it means you are also the crème de la crème of Africa. But the question is, does Africa feel you? Does Africa feel you in the area of education? You know, not so long ago, I was at an African university. And at that university, they said that their greatest desire was that they wanted to be like Harvard and Cambridge. And I said, why do you want to be like Harvard? Why do you want to be like Cambridge? Why can't you not just be you? One of the things that we Africans must do is to exercise the ghost of low self-esteem and to wear the spirit of self-belief. The day we do that, that is the day that Africa will begin to grow. One of the things that gladdens my heart when I come to Africa, to West Africa, and particularly to Nigeria, is the manner in which the Nigerians dress. It gives one authenticity. It gives one confidence. But the question that I ask, are the clothes made in Nigeria? And if they are not made in Nigeria, it means the jobs are not in Nigeria. We have exported all our jobs to China. I'm asking us that if Africa and Nigeria is to be resuscitated to realize our potential, I want to see Nigeria grow in higher education. The other area in which Nigeria must provide leadership is in the area of the economy. You know, not so long ago, Nigeria was just about to provide leadership once again. And there was going to be a currency in this region called the eco. And we were all happy, those of us who love the continent of Africa. We were looking forward to the day when we would come here and I would have the eco, not the dollar. Something happened. I'm asking you who are shakers and movers. Shake those who are in government, Honorable Governor, Deputy Governor, ask yourself, 20 years from today, when you are no longer governor and history is written about you, what will they say? What will they say of your watch? What did you deliver? What did your administration deliver? History is harsh. It passes verdict that is without emotion. I'm asking all of us who are present here to ask those uncomfortable questions in the area of the economy. I'm asking those of us who are here to ask in the area of health. Why is it that young Africans are still dying of diseases that were conquered by Europe 100 years ago? What is happening to us? Why is it that when we have COVID, we have to import things from China? What became of our pharmaceutical industries? What became of our research institutes? Why do we pay our academics a pittance, peanuts, while our thieves thrive? Why? These are the questions that we must ask. We are talking at a time when we are talking about the Africa Agenda 2063 and Africa Continental Free Trade Area. What are we going to trade in if we are not manufacturing? A friend of mine, whom I met when I was being brought to this site, former military general, as we were moving, for some reason he said about electricity, that electricity in Nigeria is epileptic. And it is epileptic indeed. Not only in Nigeria, everywhere. There is not a single place that you travel to Africa in today and you are in a hotel room, within 1 hour electricity has gone. Electricity is not rocket science. But for some reason, we are unable to supply stable electricity. Who cast us? Who bewitched us? That we cannot do what must be done. These are the questions. Ladies and gentlemen, I know it ought to be celebration, but how can I speak the language of a wedding at a funeral? I refuse to do so. And I'll not speak for too long either, because the issues that I'm raising are known. They are known because they have been spoken about. They are known because your former leaders have spoken about them. If you look at the writings of your former presidents, the statements of your politicians, the writings of Olusegun Obasanjo in his book, My Watch, he says, among other things, that potential is nothing if it is not realized. I look at the early statements of Sahamadu Ben, the early statements of Obafemi Awolowo, the early statements of MKO Abiola, the early statements of the two Ojukus, the father and the son. And I ask myself, what can we do now? And I know what we can do. The first thing that we must do today to commemorate the 65 years since Nigeria regained independence is for Nigeria and Nigerians to make a solemn resolve that is no longer business as usual. That from today on, Nigeria is going to provide leadership. That she's going to provide leadership in the economic arena. That we are going to hear more Nigerians talk about the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. That we are going to hear Nigerians talking about the diversification of the economy. that we are going to hear Nigeria talk about agriculture, that we are going to hear Nigeria saying that we are no longer going to import our chicken from Brazil, that we are no longer going to import our rice from Pakistan, that we are no longer going to have on our tables anything called English tea, that we are no longer going to have Nescafe on our table, that we are no longer going to import palm oil from Malaysia, that we are going to diversify our economy, that we are going to revive our leather industry, that we are going to revive our industry so that we can create jobs here, that Nigeria is going to be open space for the rest of Africa, that Nigeria is not going to ask for visas, that Nigeria is not going to ask me for a landing pass when I come to Nigeria. How can the mother country ask me for a landing pass? That Nigeria is not going to ask me for visas when I come here. This is our Mecca, so to speak, and we should be able to come here without any hindrance whatsoever. Nigeria must do that if the continent of Africa is to realize our potential. And I'm suggesting that you must also open up your education. Our young men and women who are going to study in Europe and America, if there were no ASU strikes, we would be coming to Ibadan. We would be coming to Nsukka. We would be coming to the Lagos School of Business. We have enough intellectuals to make us come here. And you can make the money through education. I'm suggesting that you can do that. I'm also suggesting that your airline must now be revived. Nigeria cannot be a country without an airline. How can it be? It can't be done. There are many Nigerians. When I see Air Peace, when I see Air Bomb, I know that it can't be done. This is the time for it to be done. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish not to speak for too long. Let me now move toward the conclusion, because conclude I must. We are at a difficult time in Africa. And that time can only be resolved if we make a solemn resolve. Today, we must remember the words of those who are in the forefront of leadership. Today, I remember the words of a great South African, a man who you must know, Pixley Kaisa Kaseme. Speaking in the year 1906, he said that Africa must be regenerated. And I'm suggesting that it is Nigeria that must be in the forefront of the regeneration of Africa. I'm also hearing it being said in 1957, on the 6th day of March, 1957, the Osagie for Kwame Nkrumah said that the independence of Ghana meant nothing. Today I'm saying that the new liberation of Africa will only happen if Nigeria is in the forefront. I'm urging you, you movers and shakers, go out there and move and shake the political leadership so that they are able to do that which is good and right. You have the ability, because if you don't do it, history will judge you harshly. Lastly, I want to conclude with these words of James M. and Kweji Ragri of Ghana, who said that we are eagles, but we have been fed on chicken feed for too long. Let us today abandon chicken feed. Let us become eagles that we may fly. We are lions who have had the taste for rats for too long. The time is now that we must reacquire the taste for antelopes. Only then will our lionhood be manifest. And I conclude with these words of Wole Soyinka, that a tiger does not shout about its tigritude. You follow the path of a tiger and you see a duiker dead and you know that some tigritude has emanated from there. So go out there and be what you must, lions. Go out there and be what you must, tigers. Go out there and be what you must, eagles. It can be done and it must be done, and it's you whom are movers and shakers who must do it. God bless you.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause